In the quaint neighborhood of Maplewood, where everyone knew each other's business, a notorious figure, affectionately dubbed HOA Karen, was up to her usual antics. Known for her strict adherence to community rules, Karen had taken it upon herself to enforce her version of order. One fateful morning, she decided that the police station's fiber optic line was a nuisance, claiming it disrupted the community's peace. In a fit of misguided zeal, she cut the fiber line, believing it would restore harmony. Little did she know, this action would set off a chain of events that would spin the community into chaos. Just 4 minutes later, however, a tech-savvy neighbor, Alex, noticed the sudden loss of connectivity. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, Alex sprang into action. With a few quick taps on his laptop, he rerouted the police station's connection through a federal backup network, ensuring that law enforcement could still communicate effectively. As sirens wailed in the distance, the police were back online, oblivious to the chaos caused by a rogue homeowner. Meanwhile, the neighborhood was abuzz with gossip about Karen's latest escapade. What was meant to curb the police's influence had inadvertently highlighted the community's reliance on technology and the ingenuity of its residents. In the end, the HOA board convened to address the incident, and Karen found herself facing consequences for her impulsive decision. As for Alex, he became a local hero, proving that sometimes quick thinking and a bit of tech knowledge can save the day, even in the most unexpected situations. And thus, in the quiet corners of Maplewood, the tale of HOA Karen Cuts Fiber became legendary, a reminder that in a world of rules, creativity, and resourcefulness often triumph. My name is Ethan Cole, and I've worked in telecommunications and IT infrastructure for over 15 years. My small town's HOA has always been difficult. They loved their rules, and their president, Karen Matthews, was the queen of control, the kind of person who measured grass height and fined you for having your car tires touching the sidewalk. A few months ago, our HOA decided to run new landscaping along the edge of our main road. Nothing wrong with that, until Karen, in all her genius, decided to dig right through a marked utility zone, ignoring the big orange signs that clearly said, "Fiber optic line, do not dig." That fiber line wasn't just internet. It was a secured connection hub, one that linked the local police department to the county communications grid. The incident. That morning, I was working from home when I suddenly got an alert. Connection loss. Node 14A. Police HQ fiber down. Within seconds, my phone started buzzing. The police IT lead, Sam, shouted, "Ethan, what the hell happened? We've lost all connection to dispatch." I traced the outage and followed it to the HOA park area, where Karen's landscapers had just snapped the fiber line clean in half. I ran down there immediately. Karen stood there with her arms crossed, watching a worker shovel dirt over the bright orange cable. "Karen, do you realize what you've just done? That line is part of the emergency network." "You people always exaggerate," she said with a smirk. "We have HOA approval for landscaping. If your company didn't bury it deep enough, that's not my fault." Minutes later, luckily for me, and unluckily for her, I had federal clearance from a prior contract with the Department of Homeland Security. The moment I saw the damage, I activated the backup node system, rerouting all communications through the Federal Emergency Network. In exactly 4 minutes, the police station, the fire department, and the emergency dispatch center were back online. Karen, meanwhile, had no idea she had just tampered with federal infrastructure. The aftermath, I reported the full incident, with photos, timestamps, and GPS coordinates to both the local authorities and the state IT oversight office. 2 days later, 2 unmarked black SUVs rolled into the HOA neighborhood. Agents in suits stepped out and walked straight up to Karen's door. Witnesses say she tried to argue that it was just a gardening project, but the agents showed her the Federal Communications Interference Code she had violated, a felony-level offense. Karen's jaw dropped when she realized this wasn't just an HOA slap on the wrist. It was a federal investigation. The fallout. The HOA was fined $150,000 for unapproved ground excavation. Karen was removed from her position as president permanently. She also faced probation for willful damage to government property. The HOA had to pay for all fiber restoration costs, about $40,000, plus the federal network fees for temporary routing. The Sweet Justice a week later, the new HOA board sent me a formal apology letter and asked me to consult on proper utility planning. I politely declined. Instead, I hung a small sign on my property fence. Please dig carefully. You never know who's watching the network. Moral of the story: never underestimate the importance of those orange warning signs, or the guy who manages the cables underneath. Karen wanted control, and ended up under federal investigation instead. The silence hit my monitors like a physical blow, not the pleasant ambient hum of cooling fans, but a dead, digital quiet. I slammed my coffee cup down on the desk, rattling the spare soldering iron. "No, no, no," I muttered, my voice echoing in the server room of Precinct 14. I was Leo, the sole, perpetually underpaid IT specialist for our small but vital police station, and I was staring at a cascading wall of red error messages. Fiber link failure. Primary uplink down. What the? My phone buzzed. It was Officer Miller from dispatch. "Leo, we're blind. Radio's on backup UHF, but the CAD system is frozen and the main dispatch line is dead. We can't pull up warrants or run license plates digitally." I tore my eyes from the main diagnostic screen and looked at the secondary monitor, which showed the external site map. The connection line leading to the municipal fiber junction, the one running right past the new, suspiciously manicured lawn of the Harmony Creek Homeowners Association, was showing a big, ugly X. "I'm seeing a physical cut, Miller. Check the junction box near Willow Creek Drive." 30 seconds later, Miller's voice crackled back, laced with disbelief. "Leo, you are not going to believe this. The junction box is fine, but the trunk line leading from the main pole, it's been neatly severed. Looks like a clean cut with, wait for it, heavy-duty gardening shears." I knew exactly who used heavy-duty gardening shears for everything. Brenda the Hammer Harrington, president of the Harmony Creek HOA, and my station's sworn nemesis since we installed the high-gain antenna on the roof last year. She'd sent me 3 separate violation notices this month alone: excessive external cabling profile, antenna perceived as aesthetically disruptive, and my personal favorite, unauthorized conduit penetration of HOA-approved soil. "She did it, didn't she?" Miller groaned. "She was complaining about the vibrations disrupting her prize-winning hydrangeas." "The vibrations of democracy, Miller," I sighed, already pulling up the network schematics. Brenda, Harrington had just committed an act of domestic digital terrorism over her shrubs. The main fiber line that fed all emergency communications for the south sector was gone. I had maybe 5 minutes before the whole system completely timed out, and we were effectively deaf and dumb in a high-crime district. "Miller, I need you to relay a message to Captain Davies. Tell him to secure the perimeter around the Willow Creek Junction, but do not touch the severed line. I'm going dark on the primary and attempting a hot switch." This was the moment I'd been dreading and secretly preparing for. Years ago, when I first started, the city's digital infrastructure manager had shown me the ultimate last resort, the Federal Emergency Redundancy Network, FERN. It was a hidden, entirely separate, top-secret dark fiber system designed for national emergencies, earthquakes, grid collapse, etc. Tapping into it was against about 12 different federal statutes, but cutting the fiber to a functioning police station was arguably the same thing. My fingers flew across the keyboard, opening a secure shell into the rarely used, physically isolated switch closet in the sub-basement. The key code alone was a 20-character monster I'd memorized on a dare. T-3 dopois, until full system failure. I had to trick the system into believing the connection hadn't been cut, but rather had been migrated. I initiated the protocol for the fern tap, a heavily shielded line buried 3 feet deeper than the standard municipal conduit, which led to a secure hub 30 miles away in a heavily guarded government facility. The first command executed. The switch clicked. A faint new light appeared on the switch panel, a dull, steady amber instead of the bright municipal blue. T-145. The CAD system was starting to glitch, menus disappearing. "Leo, the captain is demanding answers," Miller yelled over the radio. "He wants to know why the internet is out." "Tell the captain it's a utility issue and I'm stabilizing the network," I barked back. I couldn't tell him I was breaching federal systems to save his dispatch service from a garden variety tyrant. I typed the final critical line of code, routing all internal traffic through the backup gateway and spoofing the destination address to look exactly like the normal city fiber node. This was the digital equivalent of juggling chainsaws while blindfolded. If the Fern network security flagged the connection as unauthorized, boom, my career, and possibly my freedom, would be over. T-015. The main screens went completely black. My heart stopped. Then, a second later, the screens flickered back to life. The red errors vanished. The CAD system popped up.